The beast within. The morning sun, molten gold spilling across the horizon, kissed the great kingdom of Benin awake. Its towering earthen walls stood like silent sentinels, holding within them a world pulsing with life. The market square bustled. Women with brightly colored wrappers tied firmly around their waist balanced clay pots and woven baskets atop their heads, their voices rising in a melodic symphony of bargaining. Bronze sculptures caught the sun's rays, gleaming as though the ancestors themselves had blessed them. Drums spoke in rhythmic tones, their beats a conversation between the living and the spirits of old. Barefoot children raced through the streets, their laughter blending with the chants of town criers. And in the farmlands beyond the walls, where the scent of damp earth and morning dew mingled, Osato labored like a man possessed. His hoe struck the ground with unrelenting force, beads of sweat tracing paths down his muscular back. The villagers who passed by slowed their steps, watching him with a mixture of awe and unease. That Osato. The strength of 10 men lives in his arms, murmured one, adjusting the basket on her head. The older man beside her shook his head. Strength is not wisdom. Even the elephant is strong, but it does not rule the jungle. The words hung in the air as they continued on their way, leaving behind a truth the entire village knew but dared not speak too loudly. Osato, the tireless farmer, the man whose sweat fed his household, carried a darkness within him. A beast lurked beneath his sinewy frame, one that bared its fangs not on the battlefield, but within the four walls of his home. The silent suffering of Itohan. Beyond the towering plantain trees that framed Osato's compound, silence ruled like an unseen tyrant. The small, mud-bricked hut, with its thatched roof and cracked wooden door, held within it a weight heavier than any load a farmer could carry. Inside, Itohan, his wife, stirred a thin pot of soup over the fire, her movements slow and deliberate. 3 sets of wide, malnourished eyes watched her from the raffia mat where they sat, their bellies shrunken, their lips dry. Hunger was no stranger here. It sat with them, an unwelcome guest that never left. Then, the silence was shattered. The door creaked. Heavy footsteps. Fear rippled through the room like a cold breeze. The eldest child, a girl no more than 10, instinctively pulled the youngest twins closer, shielding them as though her small arms could protect them from the storm that approached. The door swung open, and there he was, Osato. His shadow stretched across the room, swallowing the light. His presence was thunder before the rain, the crack in a dam before the flood. Woman, where is my food? His voice was deep, edged with the sharpness of a cutlass. Itohan scrambled to her feet, lifting the steaming pot with trembling hands. It is ready, my husband, she said softly, her voice barely more than a whisper. Osato's eyes, dark and unreadable, swept across the room before settling on the children. Something in his gaze hardened. And these little rats have eaten too. There was no time to answer. No time to plead. Before Itohan could move, his arm shot out, knocking the pot from her hands. The soup spilled, steam rising as it met the cold earth. The children flinched, their empty stomachs twisting with despair. Itohan gasped, falling to her knees to salvage what she could, but Osato's foot came down, grinding the precious meal into the mud. You feed them before me. Do you think I work for nothing? His words lashed the air like a whip. The children pressed themselves against the wall, trying to disappear. The youngest, Ihis, let out a weak cough, a sound that was more air than voice. Itohan's heart clenched. A mother knows when death hovers near her child. The cry of a mother. That night, while Osato snored, drunk on palm wine and his own cruelty, Itohan sat awake. In her arms, Ihis burned with fever, his small body trembling, his breath shallow and uneven. She dipped a cloth into a bowl of water, pressing it to his forehead, murmuring prayers under her breath. O great ancestors, do not take my child. If I have sinned, punish me, but let my son live. The gods, however, remained silent. Then, Ihis convulsed. Itohon gasped, her hands tightening around him. She stumbled to her feet, her wrapper slipping from her shoulders as she burst out of the hut, feet bare against the cold ground. She ran, the night air biting against her skin, her heart pounding with desperation. She pounded on the neighbor's door. "Help me. Ihis is dying." A woman peered out, her face lined with both sleep and worry. "Have you told Osato?" Itohon hesitated. She didn't need to answer. The neighbor already knew. With a heavy sigh, the woman disappeared inside and returned with a handful of herbs. "Boil this. It will help with the fever." It was not a cure. Just a hope. A husband's cruelty. She rushed back inside, crushing the herbs with trembling hands, but before she could prepare them, the door swung open again. Osato. His presence filled the room like a storm cloud. The stench of palm wine clung to him, his eyes dull with intoxication. He took one look at Itohon, the sick child in her arms, the scattered herbs, and scoffed. "Why are you wailing in the middle of the night? Have you no sense?" Itohon turned desperate eyes to him. "Ihis is dying, Osato. We need to fetch the village healer." He sneered. "And where will you find cowries to pay him? Do you think I am made of gold? If not for me, then for him. He is your son." Osato's face twisted with irritation. Without warning, slap. The sound echoed in the small hut. Itohon fell back, the taste of blood sharp on her tongue. Osato yawned, lying down as if nothing had happened. "If he dies, let him die. There are too many of them anyway." Silence. Pure, choking silence. Itohon pressed a shaking hand to her cheek. Something inside her cracked, not just her spirit, but something deeper, something darker. She turned back to Ihis, whispering into his ear as she rocked him. "Stay with me, my son. Stay with me." Dawn arrived. But Ihis did not wake with it. The way that tore from Itohon's throat sent shivers through the village. The women rushed in, their cries joining hers, a lamentation of loss. They wrapped their arms around her, mourning as one. Outside, Osato stepped into the sun, stretching, oblivious. He glanced toward the hut, where the wailing continued, and simply shrugged. He grabbed his hoe and walked away. The villagers watched. Their silence was heavier than words. "The gods do not sleep," someone whispered. That night, the wind changed. It howled through the village, rustling palm trees, whispering through cracks in walls. In her hut, Itohon knelt before the family shrine, eyes burning with grief and something else, something dangerous. "O great spirits, if my tears mean anything, if my pain is sin, let the gods judge between me and Osato." The wind roared. The earth trembled. And somewhere, deep in the belly of the kingdom, the gods stirred. "Osato, the time of reckoning has begun." To be continued. Let us know what you feel about Osato's attitude in the comment section. We would love to hear from you. Watch out for the next episode. Thank you.